1177 BC, one year that changed history forever. Within just a few decades, mighty kingdoms collapsed, magnificent cities burned, and an entire international world disappeared. The Hittite Empire vanished. Mycenaean Greece fell into chaos. Rich trading ports were destroyed. Even mighty Egypt barely survived. For generations, people searched for one simple answer. Was it the mysterious sea peoples? A devastating drought? Massive earthquakes? Or something even more surprising? Today, archaeologists believe the truth is far more complex than the legends. This wasn't the fall of one kingdom. It was the collapse of an entire interconnected world. And once you see how it happened, you'll realize why many historians call 1177 BC the first global catastrophe in human history. Before everything fell apart, the Bronze Age was one of the most advanced periods the ancient world had ever seen. Powerful kingdoms stretched from Greece to Mesopotamia, connected by busy trade routes across land and sea. Egyptian gold, Cypriot copper, Afghan lapis lazuli, and Baltic amber traveled thousands of miles. Kings exchanged gifts, diplomats carried messages between royal courts, and merchants linked civilizations that depended on one another. It was an international world built on cooperation, commerce, and shared resources. But that prosperity also created a hidden weakness. The more connected these kingdoms became, the more vulnerable they were to a single chain reaction that could bring them all down. The collapse did not begin with fire or invasion. It began quietly. Around the late 13th century BC, letters between kings became increasingly desperate. Clay tablets discovered in ancient cities tell a disturbing story. Rulers begged their neighbors for grain. Others pleaded for military assistance. Some warned that enemy ships had appeared along the coast. One desperate message from the city of Ugarit reads like a cry for help. The enemy ships have come. Our cities are burning. Soon after that message was written, Ugarit disappeared forever. Archaeologists found the tablets still waiting to be delivered. The warning arrived too late. The collapse had already begun. For more than a century, many historians believe they had found the answer: the Sea Peoples. Ancient Egyptian inscriptions describe mysterious fleets attacking cities across the Mediterranean. Their origins remain one of history's greatest mysteries. Were they pirates, refugees, mercenaries, or entire families fleeing their own collapsing homelands? Reliefs from the reign of Pharaoh Ramesses III show fierce naval battles unlike anything seen before. But modern research has changed the story. The Sea Peoples were not the beginning of the disaster. They were most likely another consequence of a world already falling apart. They didn't create the collapse. They became part of it. Climate scientists uncovered another crucial piece of the puzzle. Deep inside lake sediments, cave formations, and ancient pollen records, they found evidence of a prolonged drought that struck the eastern Mediterranean around the time of the collapse. Year after year, the rains became weaker. Harvests failed. Food grew scarce. Kingdoms that had depended on regular harvests suddenly faced famine. Hungry populations became desperate, and governments struggled to keep order. But drought alone could not destroy an entire civilization. It became dangerous because every crisis triggered another. Crops failed, trade weakened, conflict increased, and the entire system moved closer to collapse. Perhaps the greatest weakness of the Bronze Age was something that had once made it incredibly strong: globalization. No major kingdom could survive alone. Bronze required both copper and tin, mined hundreds or even thousands of kilometers apart. Food, metals, timber, luxury goods, and weapons constantly moved across the Mediterranean. When trade routes began to fail, entire industries stopped almost overnight. Blacksmiths ran out of metal. Armies struggled to replace weapons. Cities lost supplies they depended on every day. One kingdom's crisis quickly became everyone else's crisis. The ancient world had become so interconnected that when one link broke, the entire chain began to collapse. Then came another possible disaster. The Eastern Mediterranean lies across several active fault lines, and archaeologists have found evidence that powerful earthquakes struck multiple cities around the same period. Massive stone walls collapsed. Palaces crumbled. Ports were damaged. For decades, some researchers even proposed an earthquake storm, a series of major quakes occurring within a relatively short time. The idea remains debated, but the damage was real. Imagine trying to rebuild a city already suffering from famine, war, and failing trade, only to watch its walls fall in seconds. Earthquakes may not have started the collapse, but they almost certainly made an already desperate situation even worse. By now, the Bronze Age world was trapped in a perfect storm. Drought reduced harvests. Hunger fueled unrest. Trade routes collapsed. Earthquakes damaged cities. Migrations increased. Armies were stretched thin, and governments struggled to respond to every new crisis. None of these disasters alone would have destroyed such powerful civilizations. Together, they became unstoppable. Each failure triggered another, creating a chain reaction that spread across the entire Eastern Mediterranean. Within only a few decades, kingdoms that had stood for centuries disappeared from history. The ancient world wasn't destroyed by a single enemy. It was overwhelmed by multiple crises striking at the same time. Today, most archaeologists no longer search for a single cause. Instead, they see the Bronze Age collapse as one of history's earliest examples of a systemic failure. Climate change, famine, war, migration, economic collapse, political instability, and natural disasters did not act separately. They reinforced one another. Remove one pillar, and the system might survive. Remove several at once, and even the greatest civilizations can fall. The story of 1177 BC is no longer just an ancient mystery. It has become a lesson in how interconnected societies can unravel when multiple crises strike at the same time. The evidence points not to one villain, but to a perfect storm of disasters. The world did not end in 1177 BC. People survived. New kingdoms eventually rose from the ruins, and history moved forward. But the collapse forever changed the course of civilization. What disappeared was an entire international system that had taken centuries to build. The lesson is not that one disaster can destroy a civilization. It is that many small crises, left unresolved, can combine into something far greater than anyone expects. Archaeology continues to uncover new evidence, and every discovery brings us closer to understanding what truly happened. The mystery of 1177 BC is no longer about one lost empire. It is the story of how even the greatest civilizations can become vulnerable when every part of their world begins to fail. If you enjoyed uncovering this historical myth, subscribe for more documentaries where we separate legend from evidence and reveal the real stories hidden in history. History is full of mysteries, but archaeology reminds us that the truth is often far more fascinating than the legends. The collapse of the Bronze Age wasn't caused by a single enemy or one catastrophic event. It was the result of many crises colliding at the same time. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, don't forget to subscribe and join us for more history myths, archaeological discoveries, and the real stories behind the world's greatest civilizations.